History is full of mysteries. We've got missing tombs, lost treasures, and ancient puzzles that still keep us up at night. But there's one story, America's oldest cold case that has haunted us for over 400 years. It's a tale that starts with hope and ends with a chilling silence. Imagine this, over 100 men, women, and children sail across the treacherous Atlantic to build a new life in a new world. They establish a settlement, a tiny foothold of England on the shores of what is now North Carolina. Then, they simply vanish. Gone. Wiped off the map without a single letter or body left behind to tell their story. This isn't a plot from a Hollywood movie. This is the very real, very baffling mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke. The year is 1587. Let's get started. To understand how a colony could just disappear, we have to go back to the beginning. We need to look at the world they came from. Picture late 16th century England. Queen Elizabeth I was on the throne. Spain was getting incredibly rich from its colonies in the Americas, hauling back ships loaded with gold and silver. England, wanting a piece of that action, looked across the Atlantic with greedy eyes. The idea of planting an English flag on American soil wasn't just about adventure, it was about power. The man with the plan was Sir Walter Raleigh. He convinced the Queen to grant him a charter to establish a colony. This wasn't just a weekend trip, it was a massive undertaking. This was the age of exploration. But why Roanoke? Why that specific spot on a vast, unexplored coastline? A few years earlier, Raleigh had sent Philip Amatus and Arthur Barlow on a scouting mission. They met local tribes, including the Croatoan people, and reported back glowing accounts. They described the land as a paradise, overflowing with grapes and lush forests. On maps it looked perfect, sheltered from Atlantic storms and positioned for raids on Spanish ships. But the same barrier that sheltered them also made supply runs treacherous, shallow waters and shifting sandbars. The thing meant to protect them isolated them, cutting off the lifeline from England. It was a high-stakes gamble, and the colonists were the chips on the table. They were pioneers, stepping into a world unknown to them. The 1587 colony, led by Governor John White, included families. They brought seeds, tools, livestock, and the necessities for a new society, including the first English child born in the Americas, Virginia Dare. Before the lost colony vanished, there was another attempt, the 1585 Ralph Lane Colony. The first colony was a military outpost. It failed, leaving damaged relations with local tribes. Their ship was damaged, supplies ruined, a bitter lesson for future settlers. In 1587, John White led a new group, families, craftsmen, farmers. This time they intended to build a community, not a fort. Roanoke was meant as a stop while they moved on to the Chesapeake, but events changed that plan. When supplies dwindled, John White reluctantly agreed to return to England to ask for help. But war with Spain intervened. England needed every ship to defend the realm. For 3 long years, White was prevented from returning. He waited, tormented by the thought of his family and the colony he had left. Finally, in 1590, White secured passage and returned to Roanoke. He saw smoke on the shore and thought hope remained, but landing parties found no answer. The houses had been carefully dismantled, not burned, and there were no bodies, no signs of a struggle. Then he found a single cryptic clue carved into a post. One word, Croatoan. There was no Maltese cross, the mark that would signal distress. Croatoan, now Hatteras Island, was a nearby place, home to the Croatoan people. But storm and captainly caution kept White from following that clue. He sailed home broken-hearted, never to return. He would die years later, never knowing what happened to his family. The most straightforward theory starts with that one powerful clue, Croatoan. They may have packed up and moved to a safer place, peacefully and deliberately. The carefully dismantled houses support an organized departure rather than a violent rout. Croatoan Island would have been a logical refuge, home turf for Manteo and his people. The Croatoan had remained consistently friendly to the English. They were skilled fishermen and farmers who could teach survival techniques. Over time, English settlers could have assimilated, intermarried, had children, and blended cultures. It's a hopeful theory, Virginia Dare and others living out their lives in peace. Recent archaeology has added weight to this idea. Excavations on Hatteras have found a mix of native artifacts and English goods from the late 16th century. Items like an English gun part and a sword hilt suggest some English presence there. While not proof the entire colony moved, it's strong physical evidence that at least some survived among the Croatoan. But not all theories are hopeful. The world was harsh and unforgiving. One possibility, a hostile force. Mainland tribes, angered by earlier violence, wiped them out. Alternatively, survivors could have been taken captive, absorbed, or marched off the island. Dismantled houses could even indicate attackers salvaging nails and wood afterward. Another darker theory implicates the Spanish, who regarded the Atlantic seaboard as their hunting ground. Spanish patrols could have destroyed the colony and removed or hidden evidence to avoid diplomatic war. Absence of records doesn't disprove a secretive operation. 16th century secrecy was thorough. Natural forces also could explain it: disease, starvation, or a hurricane. A storm surge could have carried remains out to sea, but the dismantled homes make that less likely. Or colonists fleeing in small boats could have been lost at sea. Each theory fits some pieces of the puzzle. None fits them all. A carved clue, missing records, and contradictory evidence leave us more questions than answers. Scholars still debate, and the debate fuels the legend. So why do we keep searching for Roanoke? Because every new find could rewrite the story. Each shard, each fragment is a breadcrumb that may lead us closer to the truth. Modern teams like the Croatoan project are excavating Hatteras Island with new tools. Ground-penetrating radar can reveal post holes and features long buried. The First Colony Foundation searches mainland sites for signs of English settlements. Advanced soil analysis and lab work give context to each find. A single pottery sherd can tell us trade patterns and dates. A metal fragment's composition ties it to European manufacture. Post holes outline former buildings, the skeleton of lost settlements. Cataloging and cross-referencing artifacts connects the archaeological to the archival. Community digs and volunteer efforts keep the search alive and democratic. Field workers traverse the same marshes and shores once walked by the colonists. Remote sensing finds anomalies that guide careful excavation. A decisive English artifact in stratified context could settle the debate, or complicate it. For now, the evidence keeps historians split and curious. These objects connect us to real people, not just headlines. Night after night, researchers analyze, test, and reevaluate. Each post hole, each shard is a breadcrumb leading us forward. The search is active. More tools, better science, and new perspectives. And so the mystery persists, inviting new generations to look again. A single carved word still speaks across centuries: Croatoan. From lab benches to windswept dunes, the hunt for answers continues. We may never recover everything, but the effort reveals new stories about early America. So what really happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? The honest answer, we still don't know for sure. A cryptic clue, a blank spot in records, and archaeology that teases but rarely confirms. The mystery endures because it lets us imagine many endings, hopeful and tragic alike. Their story is not just a puzzle, it's a human story about courage, risk, and loss. If you enjoyed this journey into hidden history, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives. Hit the bell to get updates when we publish new investigations. The lost colony may be gone, but its questions remain, waiting for the next discovery. Thanks for watching. Tell us in the comments, which theory do you believe?